The Commerce Commission has payday lender Moola in its legal sights for charging an interest rate of more than 500% on some loans without allegedly checking if its customers can afford to pay the money back. The Commission has started High Court action accusing Moola of breaching lender responsibilities. Its investigation began after a referral from a Christchurch budget advisory group. Tim Barnett is the Chief Executive of FinCap, which supports budgeting services, and he's on the phone now. Good evening, Tim. What's your reaction to the fact that this is going to the High Court?
Hi, Lisa. We're delighted. We're really pleased that the Commerce Commission's taken this step. I must say, we hear daily evidence of misbehaviour by companies at that short-term, high-cost loan end of the market, and we're really pleased to see finally that one is going to hopefully face the music in court.
So was it one of your people who complained?
Yeah, well, there are 200 budget services around the country. They see about 70,000 people a year, and about half those people have had a high-interest loan in the last period. And many of those complain, and some of those complaints get through the system. So absolutely, it was somebody who came to a budget service in Christchurch.
So what is the problem with Moola in your mind? Because it's not illegal to charge monstrously high interest rates, is it? You can charge up to 500% or more. That part is not illegal. So what is your issue with these kinds of companies and lenders?
Well, I think two issues. One is that they do have to conduct a test to make sure that the individual can actually afford to repay the loan. And without pointing a finger at Moola, it's pretty clear there are companies in that upper end of the market. There's about 22 companies in total providing these products. The companies in that area are not conducting what we would regard as adequate affordability tests, often far from it. But the process to complain about that through the system in order to get the Commerce Commission looking into it takes years. This is a case between 2015 and 2017, so that delay is a problem. We want that law to be tighter. But the second issue is a kind of fundamental one. I mean, you could almost say a moral one, that do we really want New Zealanders to be paying hundreds of percent to get small amounts of money for a limited period, but paying massively for that money? What we found in a survey earlier this year is half the people who get one loan end up getting out another one, generally to pay the interest off the first one, and half of them end up with a debt collector. And that is literally the debt spiral. It doesn't happen so readily or easily at the more responsible end of the market, but we are wanting a 50% interest rate cap, so all these companies charging these massive amounts no longer can offer those products.
So Moola has put out a statement saying that it believes its process for assessing a customer's ability to repay a loan are appropriate for its products. What would you say in response to that?
Well, if I was a PR person at Moola, I'd say exactly the same thing, but I would give more trust in the Commerce Commission to have a good case and for the court to make a fair decision, and hopefully for other companies in that area to take heed of that decision. But ultimately, before 1999, these companies didn't exist. You couldn't get loans at that high interest rate. This is a product of a division between rich and poor in our society, and people at one end being desperate for small amounts of money for short periods and then falling into a trap. So we also asked our services this year, do you think ultimately people benefit or not from these loans? And 90% said no, people lose out as a result of getting these loans because they don't realise that what's going to hit them around the corner when the interest rates are so crippling.
Well, when you put it that way, Tim, if it's a more fundamental problem than the actual loan and it's about a division between rich and poor, Minister Chris Foy has been working on law changes to crack down on loan sharks. But is that really going to help if the issue is far more core than that?
Oh, the issue is having alternatives which are not so harmful. But while these seductive products, which we see promoted daily on social media, radio, TV, while they are spending so much on marketing, it's pretty hard for an NGO, microfinance provider, or whatever to get their foot in the door. Without these products there, the UK and Australia found when they changed the law that suddenly there was a blossoming of ethical alternatives. But also we want people to think again about getting loans out of that interest rate, go to a financial mentor, go to family and friends, think again about whether you really need that amount of money. So there's a part of this which is about individual responsibility, but these companies are expert in seducing people, putting fine print in they don't realise the details of until it's too late, and then the human misery comes out the other end.
You mentioned the cap on interest, and obviously some of those changes being proposed to the law. One is that the interest cap should be 100% of the amount borrowed. So, for example, if you borrowed $500, you would the most you would have to pay back is $1,000. I'm giving you the floor now. You can speak directly to Chris Farfoy. What do you say to that cap at that rate?
That cap on its own is a good thing to have, but it won't be enough. So we absolutely respect having that cap in place, but if we also allow interest rates at hundreds of percent, people can borrow $500, they'll have to pay back $1,000 within 6 weeks, and that $500 extra just cripples them. And then they get on to the second loan, and then they end up with a debt collector, and that's the evidence we have from those 70,000 people around the country who use our services. So keep what's in the bill now, add in an interest rate cap of 50%, and then we're actually coming up with sensible 21st century law.
Thank you for joining us this evening. That's Tim Barnett, who is the Chief Executive of FinCap, which supports a number of budgeting services. Just on the subject there of Moola, the Commerce Commission is going to the High Court over their lending practices.